Good evening. There had never been anyone like her, and she changed the game for all who followed her. Right after the news broke here in New York this afternoon that Joan Rivers had died at the age of 81, the New York Times headline called her a comedian for whom nothing was too soon or too sacred. Before Joan Rivers came along, we'd never heard anyone talk that way, at least not publicly. Nothing was off limits with her. No one was safe. She lived her whole life out loud. She said she made jokes to get through life, in fact. And while sensitivities changed around her, she never changed who she was right up until the end. She still said things no one else would, and that's pretty much how she is being remembered tonight. We want to begin our coverage tonight with NBC's Rahema Ellis, who's outside Mount Sinai Hospital here in New York. Rahema, good evening.
Good evening, Brian. Hospital officials say today there has been a flood of phone calls from well-wishers wondering where they can send flowers and cards to remember Joan Rivers as her family prepares for her funeral. Melissa Rivers returned to her mother's Manhattan home this afternoon, where well-wishers left flowers and cards. And on Hollywood's Walk of Fame, more flowers and remembrances. Joan Rivers was undergoing a procedure on her vocal cords at a New York City clinic August 28th when she stopped breathing and was rushed to Mount Sinai Hospital. Melissa Rivers and 13-year-old grandson Cooper flew from Los Angeles to be at her side. Doctors at Mount Sinai put her in a medically induced coma. On Tuesday, her daughter said she was on life support. Yesterday, she was moved out of intensive care into a private room. That Manhattan clinic, Yorkville Endoscopy, is under routine investigation by the state health department. No wrongdoing is suspected. Joan Rivers' friends, fellow comics, and fans have taken to social media with messages. From Ellen DeGeneres, Joan Rivers will always be a pioneer. She paved the way for a lot of comedians. I'm very sad she's gone. And from Whoopi Goldberg, my friend Joan Rivers has passed away. Once again, to quote Billy Crystal, there are no words. Bon voyage, Joan. And this from actor Samuel Jackson. Lover or hater, we're gonna miss Joan Rivers. I always respected her go-for-broke humor. One of a kind. Rest in peace. In a statement today, Melissa Rivers said, "My mother's greatest joy in life was to make people laugh. Although that is difficult to do right now, I know her final wish would be that we return to laughing soon." According to her close friend, in her final days, Joan Rivers was surrounded by the things she loved, family and friends. Her funeral is scheduled for Sunday here in New York City. Brian.
Rahema Ellis outside the hospital for us tonight. To start us off, Rahema, thanks. Because she was a genuine trailblazer, Joan Rivers' legacy can be found on small stages this very night in comedy clubs across this country. Whether or not her humor was for you, she did it all herself. She came to prominence as a self-made woman, and we look back at all of it tonight with NBC's Cynthia McFadden.
Can we talk? She was a tramp.
Even her biggest fans would agree, not everyone loved Joan Rivers.
I was a good girl because nobody gave a damn.
And while she could turn the joke on herself,
I went into a store today. I said, "What have you got to go with this suit?" She gave me a bottle of cheap wine.
her often vulgar, take-no-prisoners approach
Gwyneth Paltrow, the world's most beautiful woman. Voted on by Stevie Wonder.
earned her both cheers and boos in a career lasting more than 50 years. She was, however, the first woman to host a late-night show, first woman to take on the guys in hard-hitting stand-up.
Her style was bold, really bold, willing to say anything, willing to do edgy material that was not expected out of a woman.
She was born in Brooklyn, Joan Malinsky, the daughter of Russian immigrants, and drawn to performing at an early age. Her big break was in 1965 when she was discovered by Johnny Carson. For 20 years, she'd be a frequent guest and guest host on NBC's The Tonight Show.
They all thought I stank, and you were the first one to say you're funny. Thank you for that.
But their friendship ended abruptly in 1986 when she agreed to host her own late-night show, competing against Carson on Fox. A moment Rivers vividly described in the 2010 documentary, Joan Rivers, A Piece of Work.
The first person I called was Johnny Carson. He slammed the phone down, I called him again, slammed it down again, and never spoke to me again. Ever.
Her show lasted just 8 months. Not long after, her husband of 22 years, Edgar Rosenberg, committed suicide. Saddled with debt and an uncertain future, Rivers reinvented herself as an entertainment commentator. Of late, Rivers brought her caustic humor to the red carpet, hosting Fashion Police on E! And co-starring in her own reality show.
Mom, get in the car.
Her use of plastic surgery was well known, and she owned it.
Women didn't talk about that. That's something you had to hide, and people just suddenly saw you had a new nose, and you never talked about it. But she did.
While her face may have changed, her shtick never did.
The Germans killed 6 million Jews. You can't fix a carburetor.
Her long exile from The Tonight Show ended this year with new host Jimmy Fallon.
Welcome back to the network, Joan.
Joan Rivers' star burned brightly right up until the end.
I love performing. I love what the audience gives you. I'm so happy to have people I can laugh with.
Cynthia McFadden, NBC News, New York.
It will surprise no one that Joan Rivers had the last word on her own farewell. In her book, I Hate Everyone Starting With Me, she lays out her own funeral wishes, saying in part, quote, I want my funeral to be a huge showbiz affair. I want paparazzi and I want publicists making a scene. I want it to be Hollywood all the way. I don't want some rabbi rambling on. I want Meryl Streep crying in 5 different accents. I want to look gorgeous, better dead than I do alive. I want to be buried in a Valentino gown, and I want a wind machine so even in my casket, my hair is blowing just like Beyonce's. Again, the last word from Joan Rivers.